Skanderbeg. Born in the early 15th century by the name of Gjergj Kastriot in the contemporary Principality of Kastriot within modern-day Albania, his name now marks history books with the weight of a national hero and military marvel. Skanderbeg was the son of John and Voisava Kastriot, a noble family of the Principality of Kastriot, which existed within the current Albanian borders and stood as one of the European Christian strongholds against the Ottoman Empire for some time, but eventually fell into vassalship nonetheless. As a common practice of this time, vassals were required to send one or more of their children to the Ottoman court as political hostages in a deal to ensure the loyalty of the family and principality. As no exceptions were given to the Kastrioti family, Gjergj became one of these hostages in 1415 and again in 1423, at which time he likely would have been about 18 years old. Upon arriving in Adrianople this second time, Gjergj was enrolled in the Ottoman school of Enderun, where he would be educated with hopes of turning him into a useful military general. At some point during this period as well, the young Kastrioti, who had previously been an Orthodox Christian, converted to Islam and seemed to be developing a good relationship with his Ottoman superiors. By the time he graduated from Enderun, Gjergj had already begun to earn himself an impressive reputation as both trustworthy and skillful when it came to the military. The current Sultan, Murad II, was so sure of the Albanians' loyalty and abilities that he decided to hand over to Kastrioti a taimar or land grant right along the territories of Gjergj Kastrioti. The decision was a brave one for the Sultan, given the fact that the Ottomans weren't always so lucky in maintaining trust with their former hostages. Nonetheless, Murad took the risk, and it seemed to pay off quite well. Kastrioti remained loyal to the Ottoman Empire and continued to fight for the Turks against his former Christian allies, even to the point of his father fearing that Gjergj would attack his own lands and take them over on behalf of the Sultan. While this didn't happen in particular, John did lose some of his territories after being defeated in 1430 by Ishak Bey, who was the current Ottoman governor of Skopje. A few years later, the Albanian revolt resulted from the Ottomans' continued push further into Christian lands, and this family was directly involved. In hopes of finding success and maybe winning their son back at last, the Kastriotis attempted to summon Gjergj home, but were ultimately denied, as he opted to remain fully loyal to the Ottoman Empire. Subsequently, Gjergj's value and privileges within the empire continued to grow, and his land claims expanded even more. By this point, Kastrioti had also begun to be known by his famous nickname, Skanderbeg. The name is thought to have come from the Turkish title that the Ottomans had given him, Skanderbeg. A bit before the mid-15th century, Skanderbeg was a top military commander in the Ottoman Empire and led his own unit, totaling roughly 5,000 cavalrymen in the name of the Sultan. Although he may have had the opportunity to retire to his homeland and finally return to his roots, as his family had been hoping for following the deaths of his brother and father in the 1430s, Gjergj still opted to stay with the Ottomans. He and his only remaining brother both received the lands and titles of their father, but Skanderbeg continued to fight alongside the Ottomans regardless. In the early 1440s, the Hungarian crusader John Hunyadi became a notable rival for the Turks, and consequently for Skanderbeg as well. But it was around this time that a shift began to take place. It's known that during this period, though still fighting on behalf of the Sultan, Gjergj maintained positive relations with the Albanian public and nobility. It is, contrarily, unknown due to contradicting sources when exactly Skanderbeg made his next move, but it's believed that either during the Battle of Nice or the Battle of Kunovica, the Albanian convert committed a stunning act of betrayal and abandoned the Ottoman troops. He is said to have been joined by roughly 300 other ethnic Albanians who had been fighting for the Ottoman Empire, and due to the debate as to which battle this happened in, we know it was either in 1443 or 1444. It's unclear what exactly prompted such a sudden change of tune for Skanderbeg, but the following events demonstrate his new mindset. After abandoning the utterly bewildered Ottoman forces, Skanderbeg led his own Albanian troops to the town of Cluj and went straight to the city's governor. At some point, Skanderbeg had acquired a falsified letter that appeared to relieve the Ottoman governor of his duties and grant the title instead to Gjergj Kastriot. Of course, at this time, the current governor was absolutely clueless to the fact that Skanderbeg and the 300 men at his heels had defected, so, thinking that the letter was an order from the Sultan, he swiftly obeyed and handed over the town. Wasting no time, Skanderbeg now launched a rapid campaign to capture surrounding territories such as Petrella, Svetigrad, and Modric. His immediate goal was to consolidate his newfound power as efficiently and quickly as possible, and it was at this time that upon the already captured Cluj, Skanderbeg raised the red standard with the black double-headed eagle that remains an almost identical image to the flag of Albania today. There is no doubt that now, Gjergj Kastriot was not going back to the Ottoman Empire, and for whatever reason that prompted him to do so, he was ready to reclaim his family's lands and notoriety throughout Albania. As part of this process, Skanderbeg next converted back to Christianity, with some noting that this time converted to Catholicism, and went so far as to threaten death to any Albanian Muslims who would not also change faiths. All while this was going on, neighboring Christian leaders were still relentlessly fighting back against the Ottomans, which benefited Skanderbeg greatly. Hoping to capitalize on this, the Kastrioti organized a meeting in the town of Lecce to discuss a potential military alliance with the other Albanian noblemen. These families who chose to join such an alliance were the Serbian nobleman Stefan Krnojević and the Albanian families of Arianiti, Dukagini, Muzaka, Zaharia, Thopia, Zinvizi, Dushmani, and Spani. Along with Skanderbeg, these noblemen and their families formed what would become the League of Lecce. With the League having chosen Skanderbeg to lead the new coalition of Christian rebels, the Albanians began to build up their armed forces as quickly as possible in order to continue their momentum against the Ottomans. A stint of guerrilla warfare against nearby Ottoman troops then commenced and led all the way up until the next major clash. As the conflict raged on, the Ottomans moved with an army against Skanderbeg, reaching the plain of Torviol on June 28th, 1444. The Ottomans, who had been absolutely outraged by the treachery of their former commander, sent one of their best generals, Ali Pasha, to face off with the combined Albanian forces. Ali was leading an Ottoman army of around 25,000 to 40,000 men, and Skanderbeg contrarily brought about 15,000. The armies camped opposite of each other, waiting for the next day. As the night came, the Ottomans celebrated the coming day, being all confident in a sure victory. Meanwhile, the Albanians extinguished all their campfires, and those who were not on guard were directed to rest to be ready for the battle. In the morning, Ali Pasha saw that his foe had positioned his forces at the bottom of a hill. Being amused and confident by this, Ali made an attack plan. Skanderbeg specially positioned his troops in a crescent shape curving inward. His troops were divided into 3 groups, each composed of 3,000 men. On the left and right wings were commanded by Tanush Topia and Moise Golemi, respectively. Archers were placed in front of the wings to lure the Ottomans into the center, and in the center, the 3,000 men were under the command of Ajin Musika and Skanderbeg himself. 1,000 horsemen were placed in front of the main division with the order to fade the initial task of Turkish cavalry together with an equal number of archers. As the tension increased, Skanderbeg patiently waited, and he would not permit the trumpets to give signal for battle until he saw Ottomans advancing. On the other side, seeing Skanderbeg just as a traitor that needs to be punished and expecting a quick and easy victory, Ali ordered a direct attack down the hill against the Albanians. The trumpets began to sound, while the troops down the hill focused their eyes over an Ottoman body of cavalry that attacked ahead of the rest. Prepared to sustain their positions, Skanderbeg's troops engaged in the clash bravely, and in a short time, they repulsed the Turks. Thinking that this might be a trap created by Ali, the Albanian leader prevented his men from giving chase to the enemies and sent a cavalry corps to order their troops back to their places. Seeing this, the Ottomans prepared for another assault. They fiercely attacked the other flank and the center. The Albanians had to resist and defend their positions for as long as possible. Having a lot of experience in military tactics and in the way the Ottomans fight, Skanderbeg expected these maneuvers and ordered the counteroffensive of his army. The flanks and the center pushed back the Ottoman forces. For Ali, it seems that the battle wasn't as easy as it was expected. Then, a signal was given, and little did he know that in the forest nearby, 3,000 horsemen were hidden. They sprang out of the woods rapidly and charged directly into the Ottoman rear, causing panic and desertion among the Turks. The rest of the Ottoman troops fought hard, but started to collapse slowly as they were surrounded. After the Albanian reserve forces arrived, the battle ended. Between 10 to 20,000 Ottoman soldiers died in the battle, while 2,000 were captured. The Albanians had around 4,000 casualties. This was the first official victory for the Albanian coalition, and it triggered a new wave of enthusiasm and confidence that was much needed if the Europeans were to continue their rebellion. A year later, the Ottomans attempted yet again to challenge Skanderbeg as he looked to expand his territorial claims in the direction of the empire. In the fall of that year, a new general, Firuz Pasha, was sent to try and avenge the defeat incurred by Ali Pasha at Torviol. This time, the goal was to ambush the Albanian coalition when they were unprepared and separated. But Skanderbeg was alerted by his scouts of the approaching army and readied his own men. Though vastly outnumbered by thousands, Skanderbeg and the Albanians met up with the Ottomans at Mokra Valley and nevertheless crushed their opponents once more. Over 1,000 Turks, including Firuz Pasha, were killed in the clash, and it appeared that Skanderbeg's years of experience as a commander in the Ottoman forces now gave him a hefty advantage, regardless of numerical disadvantages. Over the following year, the Ottomans would continue their attempts to suppress the Albanians and their leader, but Skanderbeg and his allies were now motivated, ready, and determined. The Ottomans were defeated 1, 2, and then 3 more times by the end of 1446. The last confrontation of that year was the Battle of Otanet, where the Ottomans had 5,000 casualties. This was deeply infuriating for the Turks, who had once trusted the man that was now beating them down again and again. The complete flip from his intense loyalty to the Ottoman Empire to his now undeniable crusading spirit was shocking, and it only made matters worse for the Ottomans that he was able to consolidate and rebel so quickly. By this point in time, Skanderbeg was undeniably respected and admired by men on both sides of the divide, and this was only the beginning.